Welcome students to another day in the Foods Lab. Today we're doing something super fun and I know that you're really going to enjoy it. We are going to be making some small loaves of banana bread. Banana bread is pretty much a classic, I think, in our culture. In fact, I found it interesting as I was looking around that of all of the bread recipes that there are for people to look up online, banana bread is the #1 most searched after recipe for bread online. Pretty cool. Previous to this demonstration, I have gone ahead and read through the recipe. I have washed my hands. I have assembled all of my ingredients, and I've assembled all of my pieces of equipment. Number 1 step is to preheat the oven. Students, as you preheat your ovens, before you do so, make sure that the rack is in the centermost. If there's not an exact center in your oven, have it just a little bit lower so that when the bread is baking, it gets to be kind of in the center-ish. Have it too high, will not cook evenly. Have it too low, it will not cook evenly, and you're going to be disappointed in your outcome. So always check the position of the rack. So let's go ahead. I'm going to place this just to the side and we will begin. Got a lot of bowls that I'm pulling now. So first off, it says that we are going to be taking and putting into the large mixing bowl. So make sure you get the right one. We're going to put in the large mixing bowl sugar and also some shortening. We're going to be learning a new term today. It's called cream. And sometimes when people hear the word cream, they think of whipped cream or cream cheese. I don't know. Whipped cream's probably the very most common. And to be honest with you, you're going to be totally lost if you think that's what it means. Cream is a verb, and what it is going to have us do is it's going to have us take some sort of sugar. Most of the time it seems like it's this granulated sugar. We're going to take this sugar and we're going to mix it with the solid fat. Now the solid fat might be butter, it might be margarine, or in our case today, it's going to be shortening. And shortening is a solid fat. Our head chefs at school will be taking and picking up the shortening from the supply table, and then you'll bring it back and you will measure it doing the pack method. Got my flexible spatula and I filled it full, and now I'm pushing down on it. And the reason why I'm pushing down on it is it just might be that there are some air bubbles inside. Then I'm using the straight edge of the flexible spatula and I'm leveling that off and I'm scraping the excess, hopefully easily back into, without making too big of a mess, back into my container. Then I'm going to take that the measuring cup, this is my half cup, and I'm going to use that flexible spatula then to get it all the way out. That's a pretty good job, wouldn't you think? All right, place those to the side. I'm done with them. You could go ahead and start cleaning them if you're here at school. Then it says that we are going to use our electric mixer. Your electric mixer might be a stand one at home. Here at school we have a hand one, and I'm going to put these into my electric mixer. I like to do this before I plug it in, just in case I accidentally turn it on while I'm putting them in. And I've seen some kids, like with the ties on their jackets, or even long hair if they don't have it pulled back, get into that mix or into those beaters, and then when they put them in, turn it on, and it gets not pretty. So I'm going to plug this in now. And when you use your electric mixer, I don't want you turning it on while it's up here in this no man's land, but you're going to put it into your bowl and you're going to turn it on while it's there. Start with your lowest speed, and then you're going to mix that around. It slowly is going to come together, and it's just not a fast mix, but what you're kind of trying to do here is start a breakdown of the sugars, as well as going ahead and getting some air mixed into that fat, and it's going to help it be more light and fluffy with your baked product. Cream is used often in baking, so become familiar that it means electric mixer, sugar, and a solid fat. Otherwise, you're going to be going, what the heck does cream mean? together and become nice and light and fluffy. All right? I think we're looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to place this to the side, but I'm going to use that electric mixer again, so I'm not going to totally get rid of it. Then our instructions tell us in a small mixing bowl, so I'm going back to my mixing bowls and I'm going to pick my small one. I'm going to beat the eggs, and we've got 2 eggs that we're going to put in here. If you are practicing on that one-hand crack, how are you coming along with that? Makes it pretty nice and slick and easy. I'm going to use my whisk to just give this a quick little beat. And then I'm going to take those eggs and I'm going to add this to this creamed mixture. I think I'm going to grab my flexible spatula and kind of scrape that out. Oops, there was a mistake over there onto the floor. Scrape that all out. After I've got that in there, the next thing I'm adding in is a teaspoon of vanilla. And we've talked about the way you measure this vanilla. You don't want to do it over the top of the bowl, because if you spill and get too much, and you can greatly misflavor your mixture. All right, got our teaspoon of vanilla, and then we're going to give this another little mix. That all mixed together. Isn't that pretty what that egg will do to it? Ah, it's a beautiful yellow. I've gone ahead and mixed that, but I'm not going to give up yet, because I'm going to scrape down the sides. There's always spots that the mixture doesn't get. So scrape down the sides just a touch and give it another mix. All right, right now I happen to know that I am not going to be using my electric mixer anymore. I've read ahead and I've seen that. So after these liquid ingredients all come together, we're going to be through with it. So I'm going to grab my electric mixer. I'm going to eject. You saw that it was the top button. I'm going to give this a couple of taps. If you'd like, you can use your just a table knife to go ahead and scrape. It's kind of made for it. Slide right in there. I'm scraping the tops, and then I place the knife in between the beater and the stem that goes down the middle of it, and it just does a really slick job without hardly any effort. There are some people who want to try using their fingers to scrape this clean, and that's fine if you wanted to do that. Then you just have to turn them around and wash your fingers, which sometimes seems more work than it's worth. All right, so I'm going to place this now to the side. The next thing says in your medium mixing bowl, you're going to be adding the flour to begin with. Now, of all of the times and places that we measure accurately when you make breads, especially quick breads, which is what this is because we're using either baking soda or baking powder, the accurate measurement of your flour is critical. So make sure that whoever's measuring that flour remembers that you need to take and stir that flour first. Then you're going to place the flour into the measuring cup, and then you're going to level the top of that off with that straight edge metal spatula. There's my 1 cup. Well, let's go with that 1/2 cup. Again, stir, then place. Then finally you're going to turn around and level that. Whoops, I don't think I like that one. It had a big air pocket. I don't know how that happened. Try that one more time and level that off. Okay, so there's my 1.5 cups of flour. That's going to provide the structure for my bread. The next thing is that I'm adding just a little tiny bit of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. You say, why is that added in there? The reason why is because it's going to add a little bit flavor by enhancing what's already there. Salt in small amounts helps bring out the flavor of other ingredients. After we have our salt, the next thing we've got is a teaspoon of baking soda. Make sure that you're getting the right one. Baking soda, the original chemical leavener, Baking powder is a product of baking soda and a dry acid. We just want the straight baking soda, and I'm using the straight edge that's inside that box to level that off. So we've got a teaspoon of baking soda, and then it says that we're going to do something pretty fun. We're going to go ahead and sift these dry ingredients together to thoroughly mix them. Because mixing on quick breads, you can ruin a whole product by over mixing it when the dries get with the liquids. So we do as much mixing separate as we can. Flour has in it a protein called gluten, and gluten becomes really strong and elastic when it gets wet and stirred, and we don't want it to get too strong. Otherwise, our products won't turn out right. So I'm going to mix all of these dry ingredients together, also adding in a little bit of air, which will help it become light and fluffy, by sifting it. And your sifter's right in your kitchen, and some of you have ones that go around like this here at school. Some of you have some that go back and forth. This is just going to make everything all light and fluffy with that. Mixing everything super thoroughly. And once I get that all the way through, I'm going to go ahead, and you could use your strainer to do that if you don't have a sifter at home. I'm going to take this flour, and for convenience sake, I'm going to put it back in the bowl that it came from. It's all sifted together. Beautiful, fantastic. So there's my second ingredient. My third ingredient that's going in here is some bananas. Now the bananas are hopefully not green bananas. Hopefully they're going to be ripe bananas. You can see them, of course, turn yellow and start to get flecks of the dark brown all over them. That's pretty cool. I'm going to take this banana, and I really don't care if there are any bruises in it. I'm just going to kind of chunk this up for the sake of my ease. Nothing scientific about it. And place them all on a large plate. If you get a small plate, you're going to be wishing you had a large one. So I'm just chopping off the top, pulling off the peel, and putting it into chunks. Then I am going to take a regular old fork, pardon me while I toss those away, regular old fork from my kitchen, and I'm going to turn this into baby food. Turning it into not applesauce, but banana sauce. I want this all the way mushed. One of the things I want you to notice as you're mushing this is the little tiny seeds that are in the center of the banana are very small to see. You see a little bit of them. They're those little dark things that are right in the very center, because you're going to see them a lot after it comes out of the oven, and you're going to go, what the heck are all these little dark things? And you're going to go, oh yeah, those, ooh, that was pretty good. You're going to be pretty impressed with how dark they turn and how significant they become to your banana bread. So take a minute and mush those all up. Just get it all mushy, mushy, mushy. Not very pretty, but if you were a little kid, like one that didn't have any teeth, like a baby learning to eat, this might be what you enjoy immensely. Fresh bananas. The darker the banana, even a black banana, is going to have more flavor than a green banana. Green bananas, the carbohydrate is a complex carbohydrate that hasn't broken down yet to the sugars. So the flavors are not as intense in the green bananas as they are in the more ripe bananas. If you ever have bananas that go black and you want to make some banana bread out of them and you don't have time right then, don't be afraid to freeze those bananas. Peel them, wrap them in some plastic wrap, and then stick them in your freezer. And then when you have a minute, you can use them either for a smoothie, or you can use them to make banana bread, chocolate chip banana cookies, all sorts of things that you can do with mashed bananas. All right, that's my third thing that I'm going to be putting in here. But again, I'm not combining these yet. The fourth thing is that we're going to have some walnuts in here. I'm looking for walnuts, and they're right in front of me. So I've gone ahead and I've got some walnut pieces, and I'm putting them right on a cutting board, and I'm gonna chop them. And we've talked about these different words. Chop is about 1/4 of an inch. Remember how to hold your knife securely and kind of coarsely chop these. I don't want big pieces of walnuts, but I don't want to chop these so small that I don't know they're there or what they are. What did I just eat that kind of hurt my tooth? You'd want to keep them probably about the size of a Tic Tac. So I'm just kind of going through and getting these down a little bit, but not a lot. All right, that is all of my ingredients that are now going to come together. A note on the walnuts: if you don't want walnuts in yours, or let's say if not everyone in your group wants walnuts, don't put them in. Banana bread's still good. If you love walnuts and you still got to have some, get a few walnuts and you can just take and sprinkle them on top of your bread, and that will work fine too. All right, so now we're to the combining stage. You'll notice that it says on number 13, alternately add 1/3 of the flour to the creamed mixture and stir by hand. Stir by hand being significant. You are going to stir this by hand, and you could use a wooden spoon, or you can use your flexible spatula, whichever one you're comfortable with. I like using my wooden spoon, a little bit more firm. And we're going to go ahead and start adding 1/3 of the flour. You don't have to do anything more than kind of eyeball it. All right, I think that's 1/3 of the flour. This is going to take and get me mixing everything thoroughly, but it's not going to let it be over mixing. So I'm going to stir that 1/3 of the flour in here, and I'm not going to move on to the next ingredient until this is all absorbed. All right, I've got 1/3 right here. Then I'm going to go ahead and add 1/3 of the mashed bananas. Just eyeball it, but go quickly. Stir that in there. You're not going to have all day. 1/3 of that. Then it says 1/3 of the walnuts. I'm just going to grab those, pop those in. Once those all get stirred in, then we're going to go back to another 1/3 of the flour. Again, I'm stirring this in. A good quick bread is going to rise slightly. It'll be slightly rounded, and it'll have a crack down the very center of it. If you over mix it or under mix it, it won't look like that. Over mixing will have like these huge tunnels that run up through the middle of it. That's no good. It's almost like wormholes through it. And under mixing them will make it so that it's all flat as a pancake. Then you're going to take those bananas and stir them in. Then you've got your next 1/3 of walnuts. We're going to stir that in. That doesn't take very much effort. Then we're going to take the last of our flour and stir that in. And then after all of the flour is absorbed, I think you got it by now, don't you? What's next? You're going to add the last of the bananas. Scrape that off into your mixture. Stir that in. And then finally we'll get the last of the walnuts, because that's what I chose to put in here. Could you put pecans in here? Sure. All of them have a slightly different flavor, and I think even texture. That's just me. But it's your choice if you are the baker. All right, I've got those all combined. So now we are going to go to step number 17, which is to prepare the pans. These pans are 3 inches by 5 inches as a reference, and the cooking time is based on them. Could I take and do this all in one loaf pan? Yes. You should have your mixture fill only halfway to 2/3 of it full. If it's more full than that, it's going to go up and over the edges as it bakes, as the leavening gives off its gas. If it's smaller than that, they're going to be compact and overcooked and dry. Biggest problem we have with this is we've got to get these little breads out of these pans, so they have to release. And I've been around long enough to know that this is a little bit more tricky than you think. So this is the way you prepare pans. You're gonna take anything. I like to use wax paper. You can use a paper towel, and it's a clean one, and you're going to take some shortening. That might be a little much. Take a little shortening, and you're gonna go ahead and spread the shortening in the pan, paying particular attention to the corners and the edges. And that's where it likes to be stuck. Some people will like to use a spray, your cooking sprays. I do not like it. I do not think they come out very easily. And this is almost 200% better than the spray. All right, sometimes there's some chemicals that they put in there, I feel, that causes a little bit of, I know this sounds weird, but it just seems like it makes it so that it still adheres to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and double check, make sure there's a light smear of shortening all over the whole pan. And finally, the last one. And I'm gonna just make sure I get it especially in those corners. Now you'd think that would be good enough, but my friends, it is not good enough. We're going to now take and put just a little layer of flour on the top of each one of them. So I'm just grabbing a spoonful of flour, just yay much, and I'm popping it in the first pan. And I'm gonna knock this around, and the flour's gonna stick to the shortening, and that's gonna stop everything from sticking. Then I'm gonna take my pan and put a clean one on top, turn it upside down, and all of the excess flour, tap, 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 will fall out. Can you see how nice and covered that is? That's what we want. Again, tap, 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 getting this all the way covered, all the way around. When you're done with that one, oh, and you can also see if you didn't grease very well, because there'll be a big clean spot. You'll want to go back and get it covered. Tap, 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 looks good. Again, you can see that little bit of teaspoon, it seems like it's still there. Just a little bit sticking. All right, upside down for my last one. Tap, 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 and we're still going. Of course, if you need a little bit more, because you didn't put quite enough in, you can go and get a little bit more flour to do that. All right, now what do I do with this extra right here? You're gonna go over to the garbage can and just tap, tap, tap it upside down. I've got this dirty plate, so I'm just gonna do it here. Tap, 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 tap. The extra flour falls out, and we are ready to go. Now, for those of you that are here at school, we got a little problem, and that's that all of the students are gonna be making these little loaves of bread. There's gonna be a lot of little loaves of bread that are gonna be coming out of the oven, and students will be gone from class, and I'm gonna have to gather them all up, but they're gonna wanna get, you're gonna wanna get your bread back. So students at school, you are going to get a little piece of paper like this, and with a pen or a pencil, I'm just grabbing a marker because that's what's at my fingertips. You are gonna write your name on the top of these paper, or of these little papers that you get. I'm gonna put Wiscomb. And you would maybe put period, whatever period you're in. You could take and put kitchen number. You could, whatever, but you have to be able to identify these when they come out. Quick breads taste fantastic. In fact, I think they taste better the second or third day because the flavors have melted together just a little bit, and then you're good. So now I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it on the end of my loaf pan. Just gonna scooch it a little bit. It'll attach to it. The shortening will help hang on to it. You might be afraid it's gonna burn. It will not burn. It doesn't get that hot. And will be out of the way because we've stuck it onto the container. All right, now I've got these little loaves of bread all ready to get the batter put in. This is a batter, it's called a drop batter. And I'm gonna take and put a spoonful in each one. I'm not gonna fill the first one up all the way to where I think it should be because I want all of these to be the same filled. So if I do the first one and then I don't have the same amount for the last one, I am gonna be having to go back and pull stuff out of the first one. And it's just a lot easier to fill them all up equally as you go. And again, remember, we're looking for about halfway to 2/3 full. I feel like this one right here is a little bit under what the others are right now. I'm just catching it up. So here comes my last go around. 2, 3. Whoops, I don't like to spill on my pans because it can be tough to clean up. So try to keep it non-spilled. Now I know this is gonna smell real good. It does smell delicious right now, but remember, you've got raw eggs in there. What kind of bacteria might be in those raw eggs? Did you say salmonella? And they can make you sick, and it won't be worth the half a second that you tasted it on your tongue. Okay? All right, we're ready now to put these in our oven. When you put them in, we want to imagine, if you could, that the rack is sitting right here. Don't have them like this. They won't cook evenly. You've got to have about 1 inch or so between them. When I put them in, I'm also going to put them slightly skewampy, because otherwise, with the tines that run into on the rack, they might slip sideways in them. So I'll place these in there. I'm going to bake them, it says, for 30 to 35 minutes. What do you set your timer on? Always the lowest time, because you can take and always cook longer. So that, my friends, banana bread. Delicious Americana. Love it. I'll show you the result on the back side. All right.